Here we go.
Good morning. Welcome to Saturday Morning Coffee. I'm Lance McKinnon, my co-host Tiffany Linderman, and today's special guest is the one and only from upstate New York, Carrie Ahearn from the Penn Yan NY. And I just wanted to make sure if nobody's ever been to upstate New York, that they have to go to the best diner in the world. The sausage gravy is the best, if you can see that. So I have to give Penn Yan NY kudos, and I cannot wait to get back to upstate New York for my sausage and gravy. Good morning, Carrie. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me, Lance, and thanks for the plug. The day that we're recording is May 1st. It happens to be the 9th anniversary of our grand opening of when we bought the diner. So yeah, it's a good day. It's beautiful here, and things are just moving along in that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I have to go. So I'm a little jealous now. I'm just going to say I need to go and visit your diner so I can get myself one of those fancy mugs.
A t-shirt and a slice of pie.
Yeah.
But you got to get there early because, Carrie, if you can explain a little bit about the diner, so everybody in the world knows.
So the diner that's in Penn Yan has been in place since May of 1925. It is a wooden trolley car diner. The original car is the one that has the counter in it. It's so old that it was before fire codes required cooking to be behind the wall. So the grill is still there with the coffee maker, the fridge, the fryers. The award that Lance is referencing, we won in 2017, and it's the best of New York Upstate. And we were the judge's choice, not the one by popular vote, because we're in a rural community. But when we won that award, we had to put in a countertop, flat top, just to keep up with home fries for 28 seats.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, eventually somebody brought in another car and brought it in, and, we added public toilets and stuff like that. But yeah, it is what it is. And it's amazing. It's a part of the community forever and ever.
It is. It's again, I talked about it earlier, and this is one of the premises of Saturday Morning Coffee. For me, it brings back a lot of nostalgia of always going there every Saturday with my father. So it has a very special place to me. I know John Pilar, the Wagner's good. Yes, right across the street. So John, I am going to give you a plug. The Wagner's good. However, my spot with my dad was the Penn Yan Diner, and it's a place where you went in as a stranger and you left as a friend. And some of the best conversations that I ever had in my entire life there, as a kid, as an adult, and now that I bring my own son there, has been at that counter at the Penn Yan Diner. And so I really wanted to give a plug, and I can't wait to get back home to that. But congratulations to you and Sean for having that for 9 years. There
Yes.
was a time, there was a bump in the road where it got flooded out, and I think everybody panicked.
Yeah, in 2014, we had 9 feet of water in the basement. Most people don't realize it has a basement, but it has a 14-foot basement. We had 9 feet of water downstairs, and we had enough water upstairs that we had to do all the flood cleaning. We pulled up 7 layers of floor. 7 layers of floor, put a new floor down. But, I mean, all of the wiring was cut and left, and completely rewired. Anything like that, we basically bought the building over again. But, it's in a better spot, and we got through that.
Yeah,
I had it open with limited menu in 11 days.
Yeah, that's awesome. I tell you, Tiffany, when I go up there, you got, well, first of all, there's no better place than upstate New York. Mustang Nation for life, forever Mustang Nation, and you'll fall in love with the place. But Really, Carrie, I know that we plugged the diner and congratulations again, but also too, there's so much more to you. Like I said, we've known each other since grade school.
Yeah.
And we're still friends, I think.
I wouldn't blame you if you're not.
But you are a servant leader and you are doing some amazing things in the community at your age that hasn't been done before. You are making a difference in a lot of lives today and every day. Can you just tell us about what you're doing and how you're doing it? Because there's so many layers. Like you said, 7 floors. I think there's about 20 floors to what you're doing and making a difference in people's lives.
Well, thank you. 4 years ago, Sean and I worked with one of our local churches, and we opened up a Celebrate Recovery group, which is a 12-step program that is based on the scriptures. So they took the AA 12-step program and they paired it with the Sermon on the Mount.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the 8 principles from the Sermon on the Mount that go with the 12 steps, and it's for anybody with any struggle at all. It doesn't have to be a substance addiction. It doesn't have to be a non-substance addiction. You could struggle with negative self-talk. And, you always, when you're in group, you introduce yourself as a believer in God prior to identifying that what it is that you struggle with. It could be, financial literacy is a huge thing all over America, not just rural America, all of America. So, learning the discipline when it wasn't instilled in you as you're being brought up, that could be something that you're working on. But Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior and the foundation of the program, and all are welcome. Men support men, women support women. We are currently meeting, Lance, for your reference, at Dr. McLaughlin's old office.
I remember that place very well. He's like the only doctor in town.
It is now the community room
for
the Wellspring Fellowship. The Wellspring Fellowship bought the old building, the behavioral health building that had been built behind it. They're meeting there. They have 3 services on Sundays. But for Penn Yan, Celebrate Recovery is meeting in the community room. And we serve a meal, we do a fellowship hour, and then we break into the men and women's open share group. And just the amazing things. We started attending a group in Canandaigua, New York at Crosswinds Wesleyan Church. Every time you do a 12-step and you walk with somebody as they're doing their work in their journey, it's just amazing what you can see. And there's so many layers. You can do 12-step. We know people did do a 12-step every calendar year just to stay connected with the word, but also to continue to improve instead of stagnating.
Yeah, and that's great, because my father himself was, prior to being called home, was 34 years sober. And man, he was very proud of that and that 12-step program. And he would go back and mentor, and he would always, like, whatever you do, help somebody with that. And then, like I said, it doesn't have to be alcohol. It could be anxiety. It could, all the things that you mentioned. Have you seen just over this past year, because everybody's been impacted, have you seen the numbers increase and everything that you're doing?
Well, we had to close down.
Okay. So you did have to close down.
Yeah. National Celebrate Recovery came out with a way to do it online and such. And unfortunately, our group did close down. Sean had a men's 12-step in progress, and he was able to continue with that with social distancing. And he and who he was working with, they completed their 12-step and an amazing healing journey, an absolute amazing healing journey.
Carrie,
So-
that's really amazing. And so is it open now, or do you still have a way that people can sign up for it, whether it's online or in person? How would they do that?
So we're doing it in person. We're doing it Wednesday nights. The meal starts at 6, fellowship starts at 7, and then open shares directly after that. And there's no like signing up. You just walk in the door.
That's
And,
awesome.
you know, and there's confidentiality, you know, who and what is seen here stays here, what is said here stays here. We're all just broken souls, you know, and it's great to be able to say, hey, you know, I'm a survivor of trauma, or I struggle with sex addiction, or I struggle with shopping. I actually had a lady in her 70s that went through a 12-step because she was hoarding and she had never been a hoarder before, and it was impacting her marriage.
Wow. I would have thought that. So I'm curious, and I don't think I ever asked this question. You say you started this 4 years ago. Was this a vision that you had prior to it, or this, you know, this something that you and Sean came up with? Because, you know, everything, yeah, that guy, I know, he doesn't want to be on camera today, but we're going to get him on camera. But I know
For a whole hour on Celebrate Recovery, he'd be a great speaker.
He'd be a great speaker, and that is a great story. And that's just one layer of what you're doing too. And congratulations, and thank you for that. And I know you are making an impact there too, but that's not the only place you're making an impact at.
No. So part of the reason why the diner was allowed to be open in 11 days after the flood is because I am an Air Force veteran. I have worn combat boots. I have been on foreign soil.
Thank you for serving.
It was an honor to serve. And I'll tell you, it took me 12, 13, 15 years before I could even say that. Because, you know, all of us veterans, we know exactly where we are in pecking order as far as, you know, what sacrifice we give. And so survivor's guilt is just part of the culture. So it took me 10 years to say, you know, to like be willing to stand up and say I'm a veteran if I was at a public event. You know, I didn't retire, but I'm still a veteran.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, something I had to work through. But when we bought the diner, and I can remember saying this, like the week before we did our soft opening, I said the only reason I'll ever leave the diner is if I can get into the office at Yates County for the Veterans Service Agency. And so I am an accredited veteran service officer, and I help veterans in their applications for the Veterans Benefits Administration, which is different than healthcare. The healthcare is one branch of it, but the benefits is the, you know, your disability and your payment for, you know, your challenges in life.
Yeah, and that's huge too, because, you know, and I was just thinking this last night, and obviously I was watching the NFL draft, and I think, I don't know who was up, but they showed all the veterans passing the ball together, and, you know, from one force to the other force, and I think every single one of them, my father was a Navy man, you know, so, but then I think about all the veterans who give their lives, you know, so we can sleep comfortably every single night. And then I think on the flip side, the devil's advocate of it is when they come home, you know, of what's happening to them, because they're serving and they're protecting. But when they're coming home, there's always like, it's hard for them to get a job. It's hard for them. People don't understand, you know, and I've always been in the hiring business and so forth. So if any military person who came into my office looking for a job, I'm like, you're hired. you're just hired. And I know you're trainable in whatever you do, but that's not the case, unfortunately. And I know that you're doing a lot of things that are helping a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. And so it, it does start with that, when they first come home. Amazingly, if it's not a last minute decision or a bad conduct decision, they typically go through a process where their medical chart is completely reviewed and the VA makes the assessment from the get-go.
Mhm.
If they feel that that assessment is not as great as it could be, that's when they would come to see us. So let's just say you tore your meniscus, they went in, they did the surgery, you continued your contract, you got out. But once you tear a meniscus, and you being a sports guy, your body functions differently for the rest of your life.
Right. I have 2 new knees now, so I understand.
Yes, under 50.
Under 50, yes, I know. I have 2 brand. Yeah, we don't want to talk about that. I'm over 50.
But so if you have this torn meniscus in your right knee, your left hip is going to be impacted.
Yeah.
And you tore your meniscus at 21 in a training mission. So this left hip is going to go out when you're 45. Like the big thing, they don't want to do a knee replacement. I mean, sports injuries are different. Military injuries are different, but somebody who doesn't have that kind of background, so anyways, it impacts your quality of life. There's a rating scale. It's similar, but different as far as workman's comp. It is based off of, how long you can hold your job, or, if it restricts your income earning, like you'd be earning $80,000 a year driving a long road truck or something, and you just can't do it because you can't sit in the seat. Mm-hmm. So you have to find something else to do. And it just doesn't pay as well. So there's those things, but then there's the PTSD, there's the traumatic brain injury, there's the injuries that you can't see. It's the ones that impact your relationships. So think about this, somebody who's in COVID, who's they either don't have children, or they're estranged from their children, their siblings, their spouse, and they have a medical issue that they can't drive because of medication or a mobility concern. How do they get groceries in COVID?
Yeah.
In Yates County, where, like Instacart is like, say what?
Yeah, exactly. Everything closes at 5.
It's, how do you help people, and they have extended Instacart. I mean, at first it was Wegmans was doing delivery, and they expanded, and then Instacart finally said, okay, we'll find drivers that are willing to do the mileage and stuff like that. So those things have made their way because of COVID being out here. But it's, what do you do when your veteran dies? How are benefits if you are both military? Mm-hmm. Are you a retiree? Does that pay? How does your compensation pay impact your retirement pay? Kids, education has basically been put all online anymore, but we can answer general questions. And another thing is a surviving spouse. When a veteran has been war era, a surviving spouse has benefits that are available to them. So if your spouse died, say you're World War II, your spouse died in their 50s, mom is still alive at 90 and just starting to go into a nursing home, they may not be connected to the veteran community and wouldn't even have a clue. So those are the applications that we help with.
Yeah.
Wow. It sounds like sorry, Lance. It sounds like you're really helping with the access of care and making sure that resources, benefits, that they're able to get what is deserved for them. Because at the end of the day, the sacrifice that they gave of their lives and the mental impacts and physical impacts that these have long-term and lifetime impacts is immense. I just have to say, I absolutely love that you are there, advocating for our veterans in our country. And I just have to say thank you to all the veterans out there that are listening today, because I cannot even imagine, what you've been through so far in your life, and the challenges that life presents. So I'm thankful that we have somebody like you able to help and support those individuals. Before I turn it over to Lance and Carrie, well, Carrie, actually, this is a question for you. What is your biggest advice to any veteran? Because I think for what weighs on my heart at the end of this is that I think that there's a lot when you think of the mental part of being a veteran and what you've been through. And I think a huge thing is from a suicide awareness. Just, I hope that anyone out there knows that people love you and care about you. And, if you have questions and you need somebody, we're here. But what is your biggest advice to any veteran out there, Carrie, being a veteran and what you've been through?
Every veteran should have the phone number of a veteran service officer. War era, not war era. I don't care if you're 19 and you didn't finish your contract. You should know your veteran service officer. And whenever you have a life change, whether it's medical or personal, you should just reach out and just talk to that person. It's amazing. Like I had somebody stop in, and I can't even remember. It was probably, they finally decided to put on the real property tax exemption because we just had a major increase of property tax in Yates County. So they finally decided that, yes, they were going to take care of that benefit. And that's when I learned that this person was boots on the ground Vietnam, and he had a heart attack, or, he had a cardiac event, and that's a presumptive condition. And this gentleman is married. So his wife will also qualify for a benefit after he passes. So like if you're not, if you're saying you're financially fine, I don't need the payment. Well, what about your spouse after your Social Security gets adjusted and your, whatever happens with your pension, and, take care of your spouse today. Because you go from like a $700 burial reimbursement to a $2,000 burial reimbursement.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big deal, but a lot of people are not in a place where they want to be a part of the veteran community. That's fine. Still know your veteran service officer. I did look it up in Pennsylvania. Your state has state paid employees at the county buildings as a veteran service agency. So that's a way to do it. Many veteran service organizations, so we're talking about the American Legion, the VFW, Iraq Afghan Veterans Association, most of them have veteran service officers that are not necessarily part of the government, but every state should have a veteran service division that is trying to get federal money for their residents, because it really does. I had a Marine that had been denied 4 times. I put in his 5th application, and he had permission to be living in a trailer from the trailer owner, but not the lot owner. The electricity went out, therefore the pipes froze, the furnace was off. And by the time I was done getting his maximum amount of benefits in the shortest amount of time from my application, he no longer qualifies for Section 8 housing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And that leads me back to where I was going to say, and I'm going to kind of brag on Carrie a little bit because she's being a little modest. Because
just doing my job.
I know you don't just do your job. What I want to say about Carrie and making a difference in people's lives and all the things that she has just talked about and done. I know Carrie has put in 200% to this program, and she has taken it from one level to this level. And I want to give Carrie kudos. And she's being modest about it, but I want everybody to know the time that you put into this, and from where the program was to when you started to where the program is now. We thank you. because it's two different levels. And
Well, thank you.
and that's making a huge difference. And a lot of veterans' lives, not just veterans' lives, but people's lives throughout wherever country, or whoever may see this, now they have that information. And I know, but I had to brag on you a little bit because you weren't going to do it.
Nope.
I can do that too, and like I said, and as I know by that is because Carrie had, out of the blue, random, knew my aunt. My aunt was in one of the VA systems. Great woman, servant leader. She gave her whole entire life, and out of the blue, Carrie and I talked, back and forth, but she had found a painting that my aunt had done while she was in the VA system, and she actually won an award for it. And nobody in my family even knew about it. But Carrie, always going the extra mile, found this and just kind of blew me away, So you always go the extra mile of doing things. And obviously, it meant a lot to me. It meant a lot to my family because, in upstate New York, my family was pretty large. My father was one of 16, and he was the baby of 16. So it was a very big family. But, there's a lot of history there. But Carrie finding that just on her own, doing her own extra mileage thing that she does is absolutely truly amazing. And you are making a huge, huge difference with the veterans, with the sobriety and the church and the ministry. And I'm not going to be amiss by not saying this. And she's making a difference in the Jeep world too. I had to bring in the Jeep.
Yeah, good old sunshine. She's in the driveway.
Yeah, because I'm a little upset because you said that when I come home, when I come home this summer, my son can drive the Jeep, but you never let me drive your Jeep. I don't get that. I've had my license longer than him.
Well, we'll get you in it too.
Okay, good. Just wanted to make sure, but I had to get Jeep in there, and you're a dog lover, and you're just you're doing amazing things. And I know we've had you here on a Saturday morning. I know it's busy in upstate New York. I don't know if everybody's out on the water yet. I know, is everybody boating?
Fishermen are.
The fishermen are, and so we want to keep you. I know Sean's there, but I'm going to try to wrap this up. But just give us a quick summary of Carrie in a 20,000 version of how you make a difference. And we already have, but what can we can continue as a community, as other individuals that are watching this? What can they do to make a difference?
I think it's just seeing people, seeing an individual. I mean, there was one day I was walking back into the county building, and one of the DSS employees was walking out, and I was like, hey, those are nice boots. She may have had them for 10 years, but when was the last time she got a compliment on her boots when we're all running around in masks and not talking to people? So, and that's the big thing. I mean, you talk about people with suicide. I mean, how many times have we heard a story where, I was thinking about it and then somebody said hi to me on the street. They actually saw me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely huge. Just, even if, somebody's not smiling, or, obviously if someone has like an anxiety condition, you don't want to be all, hey, in their face, but opening the door and just kind of nodding, acknowledging that they exist. I think that's, being from Penn Yan, New York, when people visit, they're like, people still say hi on the street here. Well, yeah. There's why we live here and why we visit here and why Penn Yan is number one, because it's on the pointer finger of the Finger Lakes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it has the best diner too. Yeah, and that's one thing I've always said too, and I know what my father always preached it, is always time is the biggest thing that we can give somebody.
Mhm.
You know, just time. It doesn't matter what it is or something like that. It's just give them our time. Even when we're having a bad day, give yourself time, because we're all carrying invisible backpacks. We're all carrying extra luggage. Let's be real. If you say you're not carrying an invisible backpack, you might want to look in the mirror and have a real conversation with yourself, because you know, let's just be real. So that is absolutely great stuff, Carrie. And I know, thank you again. Tiffany, is any closing questions before we end this?
No, I just want to say thank you, Carrie, to your service and to your community, truly, and all the other veterans out there. You are amazing. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. Does this mean I get a free meal when I come home? Or a piece of pie?
I think we should do a special, like, breakfast for dinner at the table, let everybody watch as they're driving by kind of thing.
I'm done with that.
Well,
You're too much. You're too much. All right, Carrie. So, all right, thank you. And again, thank you for making a difference in somebody's life today and every day. And keep doing what you're doing. Enjoy the rest of your day. Tell Sean we'll see him soon.
I will. Thank you.